Okay, we are back. Here we go. This is Rosa, RCG Creations. How's it going? We're going to be making meatloaf, but it's a different type of meatloaf. And I'm not going to show you till we get to that part. So we're using our basic ingredients. Breadcrumbs. We're going to do 1 cup. I'll put a pop-up of the entire directions. Okay. I went ahead and pre-measured a bunch of stuff because I know this is going to be a little bit of a long video. We'll just make sure that you're in good to go. Okay. Now that was 1 cup of breadcrumbs. Let me just give you the entire recipe here. This is ground beef, your choice. Any kind of ground beef, ground meat, ground turkey, ground venison, whatever it is, ground chicken, whatever it is that you have that you want to make meatloaf. But I've always found that meatloaf tasted better when it was like a red meat. Let's see, you're going to use 1 cup of breadcrumbs, 3 tablespoons of parsley, 2 eggs, 1 clove of garlic, which is about 1 teaspoon, which is minced, 1 medium onion, and we're going to be using our dehydrated onions that I have soaking while I was prepping everything here ready. Excuse me. These seasonings are getting to me. Excuse me, thank you. Okay, 1/2 cup of ketchup, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, salt and pepper, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. Oh, I forgot my brown sugar. Okay, so bear with my apology because I forgot my brown sugar. I've got everything else ready. Let me bring that. I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. I added my brown sugar to my breadcrumbs. Now, I had a fork here somewhere. Oh, it's in my eggs. Let me just mix this up a little bit. Just because I want to make sure that everything gets mixed up before I add the meat. And these are my homemade breadcrumbs. And I also added a little bit of this, because I was running out of Progresso breadcrumbs to that to make it an even 1 cup. Okay. So when you're mixing stuff with a bunch of stuff like this, it's always good to mix it up in advance so you know it gets pretty well incorporated before you start adding it. Because sometimes you'll have like a little lump of like a bunch of seasoning on one side, so a bunch of salt on one side. And this way you avoid that by mixing in steps. So I'm doing all my dry ingredients. Okay, so that's the brown sugar and the breadcrumbs. Now I'm going to be adding my, here's one of the little secrets that's different. I've got myself my homemade from my garden parsley that I dehydrated, and it asks for 3 tablespoons of parsley. And I also have my kale powder. It's only 1 tablespoon, so it's not very much of kale powder. But you see the kale powder there? Okay, and that's adding more nutrition. And kale powder is a really good one, especially if you want to sneak in the vitamins and nutrition to the rest of the family who don't care for that. You put it in your anything red meat mixture like ground beef, ground turkey, stuff like that. But be careful, don't add too much because it will turn your food green. Okay, so now let's mix all this up. I don't want to get too close because that's what's making me sneeze. So let's just mix that up. And I'll be honest with you, I've done this many, many times. Hubby don't say nothing. Hubby doesn't know. I didn't even know it's in there. Unless you put too much. Ask me how I know that. So with something like this, half a teaspoon or a tablespoon ain't gonna hurt you, but you're gonna get some extra nutrition. So that's what we all want to do. Okay, so that's a pretty good mix. I think that's a pretty good mix. Next, that's all the dry ingredients. So now let's go to, got my breadcrumbs, got my parsley. I'm gonna wait on the eggs for a minute. Minced, which is 1 teaspoon. And I get a bunch of cloves and I do mince it ahead of time. I put them all in these little snack baggies, and then I put them all in a freezer baggie, and then I label them. So I have some that are minced, some that are diced, some that are sliced. This is garlic. I do the same thing with onion. I think I have a video on how I did that. If I do, I'll put it up in the description box, if I have one. I think I do, but I'm not for sure. Okay, so half a teaspoon of minced garlic. And I'm patting it down so I make sure it gets a full teaspoon. And I'm just touching the baggie so I don't get garlic on my hands. You know what, I'm going to add a little bit more because hubby and I both love garlic. So I'm going to add 1 teaspoon, not half. Okay. And then this will go back in the freezer. Get all the air out. Always want to get all your air out when you're putting something in the freezer. Okay, and then it's labeled minced garlic. My label's coming off a little bit. It's just a Sharpie marker, it's all it is. Okay, let's mix that up. Now we're going to do our onions. And, these are dehydrated onions from our church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. These are the only onion my hubby cares for. He don't care for anything else. Okay, so it asks for how much? 1 medium onion, which is about half a cup. Well, actually, no. I think it's going to be okay with 1 cup. Let me just measure and see. All you do, when you do anything that's dehydrated, you put the dehydrated item in a container. You add boiling water on top to just enough to coat the dehydrated portion. And as it sits, it only needs to sit for like 20 minutes. It's going to absorb all the water. Okay, I think that's about enough. So how much is that? I think that's going to be like 1/3 cup maybe. I already got my dishes dirty anyway, so what's another dish? Even though y'all know I don't like doing extra dishes. Yeah, it's about a 1/3 cup. Okay, so I need to add that to my recipe when I write it down. 1/3 cup of onions, which is about a medium onion. And I love onions, so if I had my choice, I would put a whole cup in there. But hubby don't. He doesn't care for them, but he doesn't mind the church onions. Okay. So that was 1/3 cup. That's close enough to that. Sorry, I'm using a metal spoon today. A metal bowl. So it makes a bunch of noise. All my other ones are dirty. Rosa's got to do dishes. Make sure you start with a clean table so you can do what I'm doing. I'm just picking up my little extras right here. Now, don't waste this. Put all this in a sealed container. This will last. Drain the water and just keep the oil in here. And that'll last in your fridge a good 5 to 7 days. Okay? And then just whenever you want something that you want some onion, just pop a couple of spoonsful out and put it in, like I like to put it in with my eggs for breakfast. So save that in an airtight lidded container. Let me get my moisture from the water, from that. Okay, now let's mix this up. Remember I told you we're going to be doing this in mixing in batches, in phases, not batches, in phases. Just because we want to make sure that everything gets incorporated and you don't have an overabundance in one bite of too much of one thing. Okay, so that looks good to me. Already, so we got the onion, garlic, we got the onions. Now we're going to add 1/2 cup of ketchup. I had half a cup. Oh, nope, I haven't used it yet. And for ease, I just put one of these, and that's what I use. Oop, I'll have enough. Because I think this is the last of my ketchup. Okay, yep, it's going to be a close call. Yep, just enough. That worked out good. And I just filled this up. I should have measured before I did anything, but I did it. Okay, so let's get all this ketchup out because I want to make sure that I have enough. And you need the moisture of the ketchup so as it cooks, your meatloaf tastes juicy and it doesn't dry out on you. Okay. Let me put my lid, let me wipe that. I'm going to wipe that down. So very, very little ketchup left. So I got to add ketchup to my grocery list to make sure I buy that this week. Oop, my phone turned off. I'm getting more and more of just writing stuff from recipes in my phone instead of printing them. Because I'm running out of room in my for my 3-ring binders. So I'm just saving them on my phone, then I copy and paste it to my Evernote program, and then I stick them in there. Okay, so that took care of the ketchup. 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Okay. Oh, we're only going to need 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce in the mix because the other tablespoon went into the glaze. So 1 tablespoon. Is it 1 tablespoon? Yeah, 1 tablespoon. Where's my 1 tablespoon? I just had my 1. Oh, here it is. 1 tablespoon. Okay, that's that. Let's put this over here with the other cold stuff. Okay, now let's mix this up. Because after that, oh, we're going to do salt and pepper. Yeah, because that's already wet. Let's add our eggs in here. These are 2 eggs. It asks for 2 large eggs, but we don't have large eggs or medium, but they're a good medium size. But it definitely isn't large. And the egg is part of the binding process. Okay, then we're going to do salt. And it just says, it didn't have a measurement, so you just, well, it does 1.5 teaspoons, but I'm just gonna eyeball it, and I'm good to go with that. Because you definitely want salt. And then pepper. It's going to be 1.5 teaspoons of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. There's ground black pepper and ground salt. Add just a little bit more because hubby and I love pepper. And again, this one is, again, your kitchen, your way. You make it how your family likes it. Okay, so let me just double check it. Okay, we got the breadcrumbs, we got the parsley, we got the eggs, we got the garlic, we got the onion, ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, salt and pepper, brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of brown. Oh yeah, but that was already in the mix when I did it with the breadcrumbs. Okay, then we're going to mix all this up, and then we're going to add our ground beef, which I froze. So let's when I froze this, I vacuum packed it. And I fill it with vacuum, out of the air vacuum bags. Those are really, really good. This is not out of the air bag. But I'm down to my last roll. I had like 7 rolls when I became affiliated with them. And there's a huge difference between these common everyday brand that everybody pretty much knows of vacuum bags and the out of air bags. And personally, I will only be buying, once this is over with, I'm only going to be buying out of air bags. That's just me. There's a huge difference. I know, I'm pretty sure I have a video link on that. I'll pop that also in the description box. But before we do all that, let's mix all this up. Because again, we're going to be mixing all this in phases. Let me get my little spatula. It's going to be easier to mix this up. Let's get all those seasonings and flavors off that spoon. And don't forget, go to the middle of the bowl. Scrape the sides of your bowl. Because you've got a bunch of seasonings and stuff in there. You want to get all that goodiness out. Because you want it to all be there, but you don't want certain clumps of something in your meat mixture. Okay, see that looks? Let me get out of the glare. Okay, good. Now let's add our meat mixture. And this is just plain ground beef. That's all this is. You can use your hands, you can use a spoon, however you want to do it. Mix it all up. I'm going to start off with this. I may use my hands, I may not. Typically, I usually always use my hands when I'm doing the meatloaf. And then in a few minutes, I'm going to turn my oven on to 350 degrees. Let it preheat. But this is the surprise step coming up. And I'm not going to tell you until I get to that part. Oh, I don't need to use my hands. This is more. See how it's so much easier to do when you do it in phases, when you're mixing all the ingredients? Do your dries first. Then you add your wets. And if possible. But because I'm lazy and I don't want to get another bowl, I didn't want to get another bowl of just the wet stuff and mix all that up. That's why I did it in phases. Because I'm learning how to cook from scratch. I'm learning a lot of quick tidbits of, I don't want to do that. That's too much work. Okay, see, that turned out really good. Man, you can just see all the flavor. I wish we had smell-o-vision. I got my fresh from the garden parsley flakes that I dehydrated. My kale powder that I dehydrated, fresh from my garden. And the smell difference is so much different from store-bought. There's just no comparison. So if you're able to get yourself a garden, not everybody can, totally understand, but if you can, you'll definitely notice the difference in the flavor of your food in using fresh versus store-bought that's been on the shelf for a year or two. Because all herbs have a shelf life. Okay. I think we're mixed up pretty darn good. Let me clean my mess up. I'll bring it back. And then we're going to show you the surprise. Okay, we are back. We're not going to be using our traditional meatloaf pan, the little square meatloaf pan. We're going to be putting this on a cookie sheet. Line your cookie sheet foil. You don't have to spray pan it because most ground beef, but if you're using like venison or veal or something like that, all ground up, a lot of that doesn't have any fat in it. You're probably going to need to add some spray oil so it doesn't stick. Now we're going to, this is where we're going to get we are going to get our hands dirty. Ah, look at that. My job is halfway done. We're shaping this into about a 9 by 5 oval, oblong. I couldn't get any easier than that, so it's a good thing I had that metal bowl. Because you want it to be in an oval shape. So now you're just going to shape it. This is why you want to have a clean towel next to you, so you can wipe your hands when you get to the next phase. I don't want it to be really poofy because it's going to cook exactly in the shape that it is. So, and I want to make sure that the middle is cooked. And that's why you want a cookie sheet that has at least a 1-inch lip. Oh, I should have taken my rings off, but oh well. They're not. We're good. We're good. I'm just barely patting it down. And you want to make it into like an oval shape. You can use any shape you want to. The recipe just said an oval shape, and since this is my first time making it this way, because I've always made meatloaf in a meatloaf pan, but you know how the bottom of the meatloaf pan gets all greasy and stuff? So, I'm sure this will too. But I'll be able to take the whole thing off with a spatula and put it on a cooling rack. I think, at least I hope so. I don't know. The recipe did not say any of that at all. So, but I like to drain my meatloaf on some paper towels or get it on a rack before I cut into it. It has to sit, once you take it out of the oven, we're going to bake this in the oven for 30 minutes. Okay. I think that's a pretty good, because the recipe, this is another thing. That recipe didn't tell you, it says about 9 by 13. In fact, let me go, here's my measurements. So 9, that's pretty close to 9 by 5, 2, oh no, it's got to be this way, 9 by 5. Okay, so I'm a little, I'll just have to put that in the water. I know I gotta wash that. Let's make this, because it said 9 by 5, and I want to stick to as close to the recipe, because again, like I said, I haven't made it before. So let's just get as close to the possible. Okay, that is pretty close to 9. And that is pretty close to 5. Of course, that part's a little bit. Okay. And I'm still waiting for my oven to preheat. So I can maneuver with this just a little bit. So we're going to bake this at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. At the end of 30 minutes, when your timer goes off, you take it out of the oven. Then you're going to baste it and coat it with a brush. I use silicone brushes with the glaze that we made, which is made out of ketchup and Worcestershire sauce. Okay, and then we're going to put it back in the oven. Again, still at the 350, but we're only going to cook it for 20-25 minutes. Or when you meet the thermometer, I can't touch my phone, but I think it said 160, 165. I'll do a pop-up just to be on the safe side, okay, when you see this. But let me get my extra geesiness. I'm going to show you. Look at the seasonings. And you see the seasonings got a little bit too much right here on this side, more than over here. See that? This is what I'm saying. If you mix in phases, you don't get big old lumps of seasonings and all the other extra goodiness and spices together at once. So we're going to wait for the timer to go off. We're going to put this in the oven for 30 minutes. And then I'll bring you back when I come out and we'll do the glaze. So we'll bring you back to that phase. Okay, we are back. It's time to take it out of the oven. Let's see what it looks like. Ooh, hot! Okay. Remember, leave your oven on. Now we're going to get the ketchup and Worcestershire sauce glaze put all over. There's a little bit of oil, but not a whole lot. You know what I think I'm going to do? Hubby's got to go get some more paper towels. I'm going to soak some of this excess oil. I don't want to get too into it because it's hot. I won't burn myself. Let's soak up some of that extra oil. Depending again on the quality of the meat you got and what your fat intake is. That's what I was saying at the beginning. Depending on what much fat is in your meat determines if you need to spray pan this so it doesn't stick to your foil. Okay, I had already mixed this up. Just got this out of the fridge. Now we're going to glaze it. You're going to do the top and all 4 sides. It smells really good. And of course, when the meat separates, try to get it in the little grooves. Hubby likes to make his meatloaf with ketchup on top. I don't care for ketchup on top. I like cold out of the fridge ketchup once it's on my plate and I'm getting ready to bite into it. But I don't like it on top of the meatloaf. I like it next to it so I can dip it. Dip a bite of meatloaf into my bite of my meat. So we'll see what this tastes like. I've never made a glaze like this. I've never made a glaze at all on meatloaf. I know it's been out there. I just because I don't care for all that extra ketchup. I never done it, but hubby does, and we want to make him happy. Oh, there goes my alarm. It's time for me to go to bed. Okay, we'll put this back in the oven. We're gonna cook it for 25 minutes, and we'll be back. Okay, we are back. It's out of the oven. It rested for 10 minutes. I'm not going to dig into it, but I am going to do a little taste test. Let's just get this little part right here. Ooh, yes. Let me show you. It cooked all the way through. And it did get a little on the toasty side on the edges, but that was because of the glaze. So let's just see what it tastes like. Because this is for tomorrow's supper, not tonight. I just want to get ahead of the game. That's one reason why I like to do this stuff, these kind of recipes, because I can make it the day before, and then all we have to do is heat it up, and then it's ready to roll. Very, very moist. I could definitely taste the Worcestershire sauce more than I can taste the ketchup, especially with that glaze. I could taste a little bit of the onion, some of the seasonings. The part that got toasty is stuck to the foil, so you definitely probably want to go ahead and spray your sheet before you put the meat on top. But the rest of that stuff is not sticking at all. I just moved a little piece so I can show you. Only the part that's stuck is that part that got a little too toasty. You see that where I just picked at the end of it? You see this middle where there's a foil? So it didn't stick. So anyway, I consider this a win-win, 2 thumbs up dinner that'll probably be in our regular routine of meals. And tomorrow we'll have it, and we're going to have some fresh sweet corn off the cob, and that'll be our supper for tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next video. Take care now. Bye-bye.